Welcome to the Gene House Kitchen. My name's Sandra Villella. Today I'm going to show you how to cook a loaf made with phytoestrogens. I created this recipe as a way of incorporating some very easily accessible ingredients full of phytoestrogens so that women have a loaf ready to eat as a source of these phytoestrogens. So what we need is tofu. We'll be using tofu for the phytoestrogens and also linseeds and soy flour. So the first thing we need to do is grind linseeds. Linseeds are these lovely brown coloured seeds which are very high in dietary fibre, but also they have essential fatty acids, but they contain these group of phytoestrogens called lignans. It's really important that you freshly grind these because as soon as you grind seeds, the oils in them start to oxidise or go off. So just measure out a little bit less than a quarter of a cup. And the best thing to grind linseeds is an electric coffee grinder. As you'll see, it takes just a couple of seconds and you've got them ground up. So what you can do if you are using linseeds, you can grind up enough for a couple of weeks and keep them in the fridge. So we put in all of our dry ingredients. Here I've got 2.5 cups of soy flour. When I first did this recipe, I actually created it in my parents' kitchen in country New South Wales, and it was actually quite hard to get soy. It was impossible, so I used wheat flour. So if you can't get soy flour, just use wheat flour, but of course there won't be as many phytoestrogens in there. I've got 3 teaspoons of baking powder in there as well, and a mixture of seeds. So I've used sesame seeds, unhulled sesame seeds. Now unhulled sesame seeds are like wholemeal sesame seeds and they're about 10 times higher in calcium than the regular sesame seeds. I've also got in here pumpkin seeds or pepitas and sunflower seeds. So we mix those up and the 1/4 cup of ground linseeds. And that will make up the dry ingredients. So you get 250 grams of tofu. Now don't be put off by using tofu in this recipe. The recipe's been designed to have enough other tastes that the soy taste isn't very noticeable. So 250 grams that you just put into a food processor and you just blend it with about 1/4 cup of dried apricots. Now I've chosen dried apricots because they are a low GI. So for a lot of people, they're conscious of the amount of sugar that they have, and this doesn't tend to make the blood sugar go up high and then come crashing down. So 1/4 cup is just enough to give this a slightly sweet taste. You can vary this recipe and put in more dried fruit and sort of make it into a fruit loaf if you like, but for this one, this is the basic one. So by blending the apricots through, the sweetness comes in. Blend it until it's smooth and then you gradually add in 250 grams of soy milk. Now when you're choosing soy milk, it's really important that you have a soy milk that has whole soybeans in it. There's a lot of soy milks on the market that have 20 ingredients and ingredient number 19 is some isolated soy protein. If you're trying to get the benefits of the soy, you want whole soybeans, preferably as one of the first ingredients. And because if you're choosing soy as a dairy alternative, it's a good idea for women to have a calcium enriched one. So you want to make sure that the whole soybeans is one of the first ingredients. So with the blender running, gradually add, and it will be quite wet by the end of that, and then the juice of half a lemon. So we might just pulse that. And then you'll see you've got quite a wet consistency. Should be quite runny. Then stir through the zest of a lemon. And the lemon and the apricots do help to kind of moderate that soy tofu taste that some people don't like. And the smell at this stage is beautiful with the lemon zest. Okay. So then you just stir that into the dry ingredients. trying to get all of it out. And then you mix all the ingredients together. If you've cooked with soy flour before, it does actually create quite a different consistency to a recipe. It's quite dense, almost like a flourless type of consistency, and I love it. So then we just get our loaf tin, and I've just lined it with some baking paper, so it's easy to get out. And then you spoon the mixture in. So it's not as runny as a regular cake recipe, it's more like a bready loaf, but sticky. So it can be a little tricky to smooth it down. So the best way is to just wet your hands and flatten it. And then you use some extra seeds to sprinkle on top. So I've used a combination of the seeds again, the unhulled sesame, some pepitas, linseeds, and also some sunflower seeds. And we'll just sprinkle those on top. And this adds a little bit of extra crunch to the recipe. And now it's done, easy. And it's ready to be baked in an oven that's been preheated at 180 degrees for about an hour. So the hour is up and we need to take our phytoestrogen loaf out of the oven. It has a lovely freshly baked bread smell. Because it's quite a dense bread, you can be lifted out of the tin straight away. There you have it, nice and crunchy on the top. This loaf has been designed to be a rich source of dietary phytoestrogens. And so some perimenopausal women can get benefit from having these phytoestrogens in their diet. There's a dose of about 50 grams of isoflavones to achieve this. And I've worked out that roughly about 1/6 of this loaf will achieve that. So not everyone will get symptom relief by having more phytoestrogens in their diet, about 1/3 to 1/2 of women. And that is because it's to do with how the phytoestrogens are metabolised or broken down in our gut, and some women are able to make it into a more potent form. So let's try and cut this up. You can actually slice it while it's hot because it's so firm. You can see the lovely rich yellowy sort of flavour, colour. So there are various ways you can serve this. You can just have it plain, or you can have it with some cottage or ricotta cheese and have some fruit on top. I'm going to do a variation in a moment. Or some of the nut spread with banana, or you can just have it with a little bit of yogurt. So what I'm going to do is have a little bit of cottage cheese on top. So cottage cheese will just add a little bit of extra protein. So spread that on as thickly as you like. Then I'm going to add to this one some sliced apple. You could use blueberries if you like, when they're in season or frozen, and a little bit of cinnamon. This particular serving suggestion makes for an ideal breakfast. You've got this loaf that's very rich in dietary phytoestrogens. It's also high in fibre and protein. It's relatively low in saturated fats, but high in the good essential fatty acids. And with the cottage cheese on top, it gives you an excellent source of calcium. Enjoy.